friends! In this video, we're going to go over my examples of some successful secondary essays. Basically, the essays that I wrote for schools that actually invited me to interview. I'm hoping that by sharing these, you can get an idea of what the strategies listed in the previous video look like in action, and get some ideas for how you can implement those strategies in your essays. For the purposes of this video, we're going to cover these examples by topic and not by school, and cover most of the same high-yield topics that we mentioned in the last video. Specifics of our exposure to medicine, school-specific why our school, diversity, personal characteristics, attributes about you or your background that make you unique, community service, public health, or working with marginalized populations, the challenge or adversity essay, and the what else essay. So from the top, specifics of our exposure to medicine, the example that I'm using is from Geisinger, list the 5 most important attributes you feel a physician should possess. Please choose one that you feel you embody and describe a personal experience that demonstrates this trait. I responded, 5 of the most important attributes and traits I believe an effective physician must possess are honesty and integrity, a desire for excellence, strong communication skills, compassion and empathy, and commitment. Honesty and integrity are needed in an effective physician to both facilitate more effective education of patients to better manage their health, as well as to better inform the community on how best to care for populations with accurate data. A physician needs a desire for excellence and competence in their work to be continually pursuing the best outcomes for their patients. Strong communication skills are needed because much of healthcare is only effective when the patient, the practitioners, and the support staff work as a team. And effectively working as a team involves everyone being on the same page as far as the goals and methods by which to achieve those goals for the patient are concerned. Compassion and empathy are needed both so that the physician can connect with the patient and so that the physician is more motivated to alleviate the patient's discomfort or suffering. Finally, commitment is the dedication to do whatever is necessary and possible to achieve the goals and is required for physicians to persevere through long hours of tedious work for the improvement of the patient. I have demonstrated the embodiment of commitment particularly as an educator acting as the microbiology lab manager for the University of Pittsburgh. During the time that I spent as the microbiology lab manager, I not only shifted my schedule around to best accommodate the instruction laboratory classes and faculty, but also ran side experiments and projects to improve the efficiency and quality of work produced by the preparatory team. By also observing the teaching faculty as they taught as well as stepping in to assist with teaching activities, I also improved my communication and teaching skills to better improve the outcomes of the students. I additionally offered advice and guidance to the undergraduate teaching assistants with less experience with laboratory techniques or teaching to improve their performance and therefore their students' outcomes as well. In this one, I made sure to prioritize answering the question in its entirety first. I decided to go with a non-healthcare professional example, and I did this for a couple of reasons. 1, the prompt asked how I embodied one of the traits that I'd listed, and not necessarily an experience in healthcare where I demonstrated my embodiment of this trait. 2, I knew I had a strong letter of recommendation from this specific experience based on my relationship with the letter writer, and felt that this response in combination with my letter of recommendation would better support my argument. An example of school-specific why our school, another one from Geisinger. Given Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine's unique mission and values, please tell us why you feel you are a good fit for our institution. I responded, as demonstrated through Geisinger's mission and values, the institution is committed to the improvement of patient outcomes and bettering the community it serves. Through the mission statement, putting forth an emphasis on community-based, patient-centered, interprofessional, and evidence-based models of care, I can see myself integrating with Geisinger's priorities well through service to the community and through the commitment to providing the best care possible as backed by current evidence and research. Through values like kindness, excellence, and safety, I feel I have demonstrated my alignment with Geisinger's values through my service to students as the microbiology lab manager for the University of Pittsburgh, as well as a Gwen's Girls Academic Support Initiative tutor, committed to the experience and outcomes of students in which they feel seen and understood as well as educated. By continually pursuing knowledge through the achievement of my master's degree at the University of Pittsburgh Biomedical Master's Program, and fostering my critical thinking skills through research with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases as a post-baccalaureate fellow, I similarly show my alignment with Geisinger's values to constant learning and innovation in order to achieve better patient experiences and outcomes as well. I hope that through the continuation of my research activities at Geisinger's Steele Institute for Health Innovation, I can continue contributing towards scientific advancement and developing my research-oriented skills to achieve better patient outcomes, both for the patients served by the research that I will contribute towards, as well as the patients who will be directly affected by my abilities to critically think through diagnostic and therapeutic information. In this one, I made a point to cite specific keywords from their mission statement and values and how parts of my background align with these missions and values. When referencing other parts of my application, it's worth noting that I still provide enough context so that rereading my primary isn't completely necessary, but if they decide to do so, the other parts of my application would complement my secondary. Another example, why have you selected the University of Miami Miller's School of Medicine for your medical education? Please be as specific as possible. I responded, being a part of an institution that supports a well-rounded education for its students through the maintenance and supporting of multiple dual or joint degree programs, scholarly concentrations, and student organizations is a strong priority in my selection of medical schools to which to apply. As a student who hopes to eventually take on a leadership position in the business administration dimension of healthcare, as well as ethically, effectively, and sensitively treat patients in vulnerable populations, the school's offering of the MD/Masters in Business Administration, MD/Masters in Medical Humanities and Bioethics, and MD/Masters in Public Health programs aligns well with these desires. Though I understand that the enrollment in the MD/MPH program would preclude me from the participation in any other dual degree programs, being in an environment where I can learn from those who are enriching their education in other dual joint degree programs is valuable as well. This school's emphasis on deepening multiple facets of its students' education is only further demonstrated with its opportunities for scholarly concentrations. As a prospective student who is deeply interested in either family medicine or following in my PI's footsteps, and furthering a career in allergy and immunology, which would require matching into internal medicine or medicine and pediatrics prior to a fellowship, the offering of accelerated pathways would help me minimize the debt incurred through medical school. Other pathways, such as the business of medicine and quality improvement, environment and population health, health law, and J. Weiss pathway for social medicine and health equity, would help enhance my understanding of the landscape of medicine and improving care while reducing costs to improve access for patients. And pathways such as child health development and leadership pathway, infection control and prevention pathway, immunologic medicine, and infectious diseases pathway would align with my experiences working with children, microbiology and infectious diseases, and allergy and immunology, and would allow me to further enhance my studies and understanding of these topics. Additionally, I believe existing student organizations would help me connect with my peers and community and allow me to feel at home in Miami. Professional organizations such as the Internal Medicine Interest Group, Meds Peds Interest Group, and Invested in Medicine would help me prepare for a career in internal medicine and/or pediatrics. Service organizations such as the Child and Adolescent Motivation and Enrichment Program, Healthcare Collaboration, and PEDS Partners would allow me to continue working with children, which, through endeavors like working with Gwen's Girls, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center's Children's Hospital, and Music for Everyone, I have found continually rejuvenates me and reconnects me with my sense of purpose, and organizations like Miami Street Medicine would similarly connect me with the surrounding community to provide aid to the most vulnerable. Finally, organizations like Difficult Conversations would help me to continue developing my sense of allyship towards sexual and gender minorities and my commitment to continually doing work as an anti-racist, and organizations like Doctor's Note would allow me to continue using music as an outlet with which to decompress and connect with others. Here, I similarly made a point to emphasize the parts of the school that I perceived the administration to be most proud of. I knew the school had a pretty sizable number of dual or joint degree programs, so I emphasized how I was interested in those programs or even just appreciated the benefit of having those additional perspectives in the classroom. I also once again made a point to highlight parts of my existing career and how they aligned with programs already in place in the institution, demonstrating how I could see myself fitting in, finding causes I was passionate about and wanted to contribute towards, and thriving in their space. Next example, the diversity, personal characteristics, and attributes about you and your background that make you unique. So this first example is definitely more diversity-oriented. The University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine is committed to building a diverse and talented community that will train physicians in delivering culturally competent, person-centered care and promoting a supportive, collaborative learning environments. To achieve this, we want our fellow students to recognize health disparities and advocate for health equity. We are interested in combating all forms of systemic barriers and would like to hear your thoughts on opposing specifically systemic racism, anti-LGBTQ+ discrimination, and misogyny. How will you contribute? I responded, Dr. Yearby argues, social race should only be used as a factor in medicine when explicitly connected to racism or to fulfill diversity and inclusion efforts. The term race should be abandoned otherwise, specifically in medical guidelines, standards of care, and research, and social determinants of health and other factors like neighborhood and health insurance status should be used instead. I will progress expanded research into race as a sociological construct with some biological correlates rather than biological definitions and advocate for changes based on the recommendations of of the data. I will also aim to further the paradigm opposing colorblindness, because social race and racism continue to impact every individual in this society, and instead advocate for changes in the medical field where all peoples of all ancestries and with all degrees of skin pigmentation are represented, particularly in ways which reflect their proportions of the population in the country or world and/or the disease population. I will engage in strategies medical students can practice to champion anti-racism advocacy put forth by Fadoju et al. Of embracing a common agenda, establishing a formal structure, engaging affinity groups and allies, endorsing legislative action, encouraging curricular reform, and enriching the pipeline. Lastly, I will continue educating myself on the influence of social race on health outcomes and advocating for greater research to explore the inequities present due to racism and combat these inequities, as well as advocate for policy change based on the data of this research. This is actually the secondary where I accidentally responded to last year's prompt, which is the one I've just read, whereas the prompt actually changed to, at this school, diversity and inclusion are measures of distinction, integral to achieving institutional excellence, and essential to the development of future physicians who become leaders in medicine. Describe how you have demonstrated a commitment to diversity and inclusion in the past and how you hope to grow that commitment in medical school. Again, I got away with it, but I'm very convinced that was only because, one, there was enough overlap between the two prompts that my response still mostly fit, and two, the research and thought I invested into answering this prompt demonstrated my emotional investment. Also note that the response makes it clear that I'm not opposed to taking a stance, but I'm also not opposed to revising my stance and opinions in the face of conflicting evidence. Another example to show a completely different approach, optional, provide a description of any activities involving the fine arts, dance, drama, music, art, photography, etc., or sports, organized team sports, recreational activities that you play, watch, or follow, meaningful involvement in student organizations, a description of your most memorable travel experience, or a description of your hobbies and what you do for fun and relaxation. I responded, I'm an amateur musician who plays the violin, viola, piano, and the guitar, and the latter two often to accompany myself as I slowly develop my vocal skills. I have enjoyed the process of learning to critically listen to myself either while playing or singing, researching, and practicing ways to improve. The practice of music has allowed me to develop skills that unpair my pride from my skills and development, to receive feedback and benefit more receptively from it without losing motivation and the rewards of growth as a musician. By unpairing my pride and performance as a musician, I have learned to take both positive and negative feedback with a growth-oriented mindset. I chose this one as an example because this doesn't immediately come off as a diversity essay, but it's worth recognizing it for what it is. A question about what kinds of unique experiences, skills, or perspectives you will bring to the classroom. It's also worth noting how I use this essay to speak about more than just what music means to me, but also as an opportunity to emphasize my growth mindset and how I'm constantly motivated to improve. Community service, public health, and working with marginalized populations. The example from Miami, what have you done to help identify, address, and correct an issue of systemic discrimination? I responded, as the daughter of two Vietnamese war immigrants and raised by a single mother after my father's incarceration, I have experienced some of the hardships of certain underrepresented demographics and experienced the merging of two different cultures and the cultural isolation that accompanies. I broke free of a generational cycle of abuse and built an improved relationship with my parents by establishing healthy boundaries, and am actively learning to build healthier communication and emotional skills. These experiences allowed me to learn how each of us has our own complicated identities, and how everyone is at their best when approached with open-mindedness and compassion. I'm continually learning that the work is never over in fighting racism within society and within ourselves. I'm still learning to suspend my own immediate judgments and responses and critically question where they originate and who benefits from those thoughts, as well as make appropriate spaces for voices of various minorities to be heard and understood without the need for code switching. At this school, I hope to enhance the classroom by bringing this perspective of open-mindedness, empathy, and understanding. I will continue to educate myself and promote discussion on sensitive topics like ethnicity, sexual identity, and poverty. As a future physician who will treat diverse patients, I hope to continue learning from those impacted firsthand, better combat these inequities. I think in this one, it's important to note that it's one thing to preach about what you hear about systemic discrimination, and it's another to tell someone where you were coming from when you learned about what you know on this topic, and why you're motivated to keep learning. I also made a point to use key terms and phrases that I learned from my experiences taking courses like Anti-Black Racism in America or participating in the NIH Academy on Health Disparities. I didn't take those courses for this purpose, but they sure did come in handy. Next is a challenge or adversity essay example From the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, tell us about a challenging problem you faced and how you resolved it. I responded, after graduating undergrad, I faced the challenge of attaining financial independence to avoid returning to a physically, emotionally, and financially abusive relationship with my mother while progressing my academics. Interning in the microbiology lab, I learned the lab manager was seeking to leave his position. Understanding his departure was poorly timed for the lab's faculty, I learned the skills for the position in preparation. Concurrently, I applied to the biomedical master's program to take advantage of the incredible resources at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine and the tuition benefits associated with Pitt employment. Upon receiving the lab manager position and acceptance to the BMP, at staff orientation I discovered, due to unforeseen delays in paperwork in the Human Resources Department, my start date was delayed to 4 days short of the deadline to qualify for tuition benefits for the fall. Either I could wait a year to enroll or pay the entire tuition out of pocket, which I didn't have. I advocated for myself by contacting the head of the benefits department of HR to ask what, if anything, HR could do for me in financial advising to alleviate the unexpected financial burdens that came with paperwork delays. These efforts yielded an override in the initial decision, granted me access to the tuition benefits, and allowed me to graduate from the BMP self-funded and debt-free. From a safer financial place, I am now able to better navigate my much improved relationship with my mom. In this one, note how I talk about sensitive topics while not writing defensively. I state my truth and move on, especially since much of the sensitive background is covered in my Other Impactful Experiences essay or Disadvantaged essay. Also note how this challenge allows me to highlight an important lesson I learned about diplomatic self-advocacy. Lastly, an example of what else. From the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, please write about anything else you would like to add to your application or anything you would like to emphasize to the admissions committee. I responded, during my time at the University of Pittsburgh in undergrad and graduate school, I developed fundamental aspects of who I am, and I would be overjoyed if my top choice school were to accept me once again. I discovered my identity as a scientist under Dr. Drain and Dr. Murray in Methods and Logic of Biomedicine and Anatomy in the Biomedical Master's Program, identified with both their passions for science as well as for connecting with the Pitt community and fostering its growth, and realized my love for easing the burdens of patients in the Austin's Playroom on the 6th floor of UPMC Children's Hospital. I hope to continue my research and community service endeavors at PreMed by completing a longitudinal research project, completing an area of concentration in either infectious diseases, medical humanities and ethics, or global health and underserved populations, and/or completing a community service certificate through participation with Gwen's Girls. My desire for constant growth is aligned with PreMed's continual commitment to self-reflection and improvement, as evident in the incredible faculty and in initiatives such as the Anti-Black Racism course introduced and made widely accessible in 2020. I'm excited about the possibility of the new Three Rivers curriculum, hopefully beginning in August of 2023, with the potential for enrollment in the 3-year accelerated MD for primary care specialties and the opportunity to be mentored by dedicated educators who are experts in their fields for the duration of the preclinical years. So I obviously use this as a why us essay, which I recommend for any secondaries where there isn't a why us essay, but there is a what else secondary. And again, I emphasized my ties to the school first and foremost, and then all the programs I was interested in and how my background aligned with them. I also definitely improved my case through being up to speed on the curriculum changes that were planned, showing I'd invested a lot of thought, time, and effort into envisioning my future here. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or need any support or guidance. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up or subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.